most welcome to Historiespanel, History Reconnaissance, and World War II Precursor, the Sino-Japanese War. The Second Sino-Japanese War was one of the most destructive conflicts of World War II. It began with the invasion of Manchuria in 1931, and then it evolved into total war with the Marco Polo Bridge incident of July 7, 1937. It became a part of World War II in 1941, and ended with Japan's surrender on September 2, 1945. With half of China ruined, 20 million Chinese, military and non-military dead, and 480,000 Japanese soldiers killed on Chinese soil. This conflict was one of the bloodiest in World War history. And please, subscribe to our channel and get notified of upcoming videos. And don't forget to check our previous videos. There are 186 published prior to this one. Japan was so much better prepared for war than China, and its armies achieved rapid initial success. Within the course of 2 years, Japan obtained possession of most of the ports and most of the major cities, as far west as Hankow, and the larger part of the railways. Beijing and Tianjin were occupied in July 1937. After fierce fighting, the Chinese armies were driven out of the Shanghai area by middle of November 1937. Nanjing, the nationalist capital, fell 1 month later. The capital was moved west to Hankow. The Japanese followed and took that city in October 1938. In the same month, the Chinese lost Guangzhou. The Japanese pressed northward and westward from Beijing along the railway lines into Shanxi and Inner Mongolia. They had complete command of the sea, always superior in the air. For many months they had all but destroyed the Chinese Air Force and bombed Chinese cities at will. The loss of life, particularly for the Chinese, was enormous.
Steaming up the Wangpo, Japanese warships bring troop reinforcements to Shanghai while planes take off to attack the Chinese, and orders are given by Commander-in-Chief Hasegawa for a heavy barrage. Bombs from Chinese planes miss as a desperate effort is made to block the landing of fresh army units scheduled for Putong across the Wangpo, where 2 Chinese divisions are entrenched.
The Battle of Shanghai was the first major engagement fought between the National Revolutionary Army of the Republic of China, that is, the military arm of the Kuomintang or the Chinese Nationalist Party, and the Imperial Japanese Army. It lasted from August 13, 1937 to November 26, and was one of the largest and bloodiest battles of the entire war, and even regarded by some historians as the first battle of World War II. After over 3 months of extensive fighting on land, in the air, at sea, the battle ended in victory for Japan.
Ammunition is landed with the troops under General Okochi and staff, and they advance to attack Hongqiu Park. These barricades in North Sishun Road are near the boundary of the city.
The Japanese cruiser Izumo, flagship of the 3rd Imperial Fleet, provided naval gunfire support to Japanese troops ashore during the Battle of Shanghai. Izumo was repeatedly attacked without effect by Chinese aircraft for the duration of the battle. Still in Shanghai, at the beginning of the Pacific War on December 8, 1941, Izumo captured the American river gunboat USS Wake and assisted in sinking the British river gunboat HMS Petrel. 4 days after the American aerial attack on Kure on the 24th of July 1945, Izumo was near missed 3 times. However, the shockwave from the detonations sprang the ship's seams, and the resulting flooding caused her to capsize. The Imperial Japanese Army had a more advanced and better organized armored force compared to the Chinese, which contributed to the success of the Japanese military campaigns in various parts of China. Type 89 Ichi-HGo medium tank formed the backbone of Japanese armored forces during the early stages of the war. Type 95 Ichi-HGo light tank was widely used by the Japanese military during the invasion of China. It was faster and more maneuverable than the Type 89 and was effective in the diverse terrains of China. Chinese armored units during the early stages of the war were relatively limited in number and capability compared to their Japanese counterparts. The Chinese forces only had a small number of outdated tanks, often of foreign origin. Some of the tanks in their inventory included the German-designed Panzer I and Panzer III, as well as Italian CV-33 tankettes. As the war progressed, the Chinese made effort to acquire and produce more advanced armored vehicles. One notable example was the development of the Type 94 tankette, which was a copy of the Japanese tankette of the same name. The Chinese also received assistance from foreign powers such as the Soviet Union and the United States in the form of armored vehicles and equipment. After failing to stop the Japanese in the Battle of Wuhan, the Chinese central government relocated to Chongqing in the Chinese interior. The Chinese did not yield, and the war was prolonged far beyond Japan's expectations. By 1939, after Chinese victories in Shaanxi and Guangxi, and with Japan's lines of communications stretched deep into the Chinese interior, the war reached a stalemate. While Japan could control large cities it captured, it lacked sufficient manpower to control the vast countryside. The Japanese were unable to defeat Chinese Communist Party forces in Shaanxi, who waged a campaign of sabotage and guerrilla warfare. In December 1941, Japan launched its surprise attack on Pearl Harbor and declared war on the United States. The US then increased its flow of aid to China. The Lend-Lease Act gave China a total of $1.6 billion. And with Burma cut off, the US Army Air Forces had to airlift material over the Himalayas. The airlifted cargo had traveled a long way and a long time before reaching the airfields. After 2 months at sea, it was unloaded at Calcutta in India. The bulk of it pushed to the river dock and loaded onto barges, and then shipped upriver to Assam. The other route to Assam was on a primitive railroad. There it was unloaded and reloaded to a narrow-gauge railroad.
But the journey isn't over yet. There's one more leg into enemy territory. Hong Kong is the objective on this mission. The bombs are finally away. They've come 10,000 long miles. They've been en route for close to 6 months. But on this last couple of miles, they travel swift and true into the enemy target.
The 1938 Yellow River flood was a man-made flood from June 1938 to January 1947, created by the Chinese National Army's intentional destruction of dikes on the Yellow River. The flood acted as a scorched earth defensive line. It safeguarded the railway where the Soviet Union sent their military supplies to China. It stopped the quick mobilization of the Japanese army from North China into the Battle of Wuhan, and it prevented them from entering the Sichuan Basin, where the wartime capital of Chongqing and the southwestern home front was located.
But in 1941, while America was still at peace, some visitors arrived in China. These were the Flying Tigers, under the command of a master tactician, Claire L. Chennault.
This was also a joint effort. Airmen from China and the United States flew in mixed crews. jointly repelled Japanese air incursions, and officers from each side learned to work together. In 1944, Japan launched Operation Ichi-HGo, the invasion of Henan and Shaanxi. However, this failed to bring about the surrender of Chinese forces. In 1945, the Chinese Expeditionary Force resumed its advance in Burma and completed a later road linking India to China. At the same time, China launched large counteroffensives in South China and repulsed a failed Japanese invasion of West Hunan and recaptured Japanese-occupied regions of Guangxi. Japan formally surrendered on September 2, 1945, following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, along with Soviet offensives recently launched at Japanese forces in Manchuria. China was recognized as one of the Big Four allies during the war, regained all territories lost to Japan, and became one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. The Chinese Civil War resumed in 1946, but that is another story.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.